Okay, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another segment of the Real Mike Pittman podcast. I'm your host, Mike Pittman, and joining me on the show here today is Mr. James Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence is the new general manager of the
Yes,
Greenleaf uh, Market in
yes.
St. Louis, Missouri. This market was built brand new. So he's the second person now that is going to be running the store.
Yes.
It had shuttered for a while, but Mr. Lawrence is hopefully going to bring his expertise in here and turn this store around. So, Mr. Lawrence, thank you for agreeing to come on the show.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate your invitation, and I'm excited to be here.
Sure. Well, can you tell us a little bit about your who Mr. Lawrence is and how you actually arrived in this position now? Give us
Sure.
a bit of your background, if you will, sir.
Well, my real background is I started in the grocery industry April 7th of 1958, 17 years old. I earned each position along the way from bag boy to stock clerk to checker to department head to front end manager, third manager, assistant manager,
Mhm.
and finally, after 17 years, I became the store manager.
Okay.
Mr.
So,
Lawrence is the new 17 years.
no, I'm sorry about that. Go right ahead, sir.
Sorry. Um, the store was Union and Page.
Mm-hmm.
It was right across the street from the police station,
Mm-hmm.
and it was predominantly 95% Black. Um, I earned the position of head checker, and after I earned that position, the manager there, Virgil Natler, I'll never forget him, wonderful man. He was sick. And he gave me the opportunity to take his place, although I didn't have the title, but he allowed me to open the store, close the store, shut down the store, do all the book work, handle everything. And at the end of the day, he was back in the back. I set him up on some tissue boxes and put a blanket over and say, get you some rest, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I go back and tell him 10 minutes before we close. He come up front, check everything. He says, everything's wonderful. And through him, I not only learned, I thrived. And I will say, for as training, he was the one that really gave me the opportunity to learn. There was no Black store managers. I was the first of everything. So naturally, I learned from the porter up. And I was never fearful or doubtful or felt anything about when I got a little title that I mopped floors. Didn't bother me at all. As a matter of fact, a lawyer came in and said, young man, all the time that you've been here, and I know every position. Now you're assistant manager, and that's wonderful. I said, well, thank you. He says, I got a problem with it. I said, well, talk to me, sir. He says, all I see you doing is washing windows and waxing floors and picking up trash off the yard. I'm going to raise some hell about it. I said, please don't. He says, why not? I said, do you realize I'm the highest paid porter in the state of Missouri? He said, I never thought of it that way. So I went on, and then when I came, they sent me to another store, a new store that opened on Newstead Natural Bridge,
Mm-hmm.
4437 Natural Bridge. There was a National in the next block. 3 blocks down, there was an IGA. 3 blocks west, there was an A&P. There was a Kroger. And a mile away, there was a Bet North Rep store. So we had lots of competition. You had to know your product. And I thrived in that store as a store manager because I had a great meat manager. and his name was Stanley. Stanley and I would get together. We put our ads together. We talked about what we were going to feature. And from what we were going to feature, we did something we call cross-merchandising. So what do you mean by cross-merchandising? What I mean is if we had greens on sale and I ran greens at 50% less than anybody, it was a loss leader to me. But when I say cross-merchandising, we took all the things in the meat department that you would cook with greens, and we took them out of the meat department and merchandised them with the produce. So we may be losing on greens, but there was a 37 to 50% markup on the meat. And on smoked meats, there was a 70% markup. So I learned pretty quickly what we were eating and how to merchandise. And that made us a success. The stores was rated on sales per man hour, which meant how much production are you getting out of the people that are working there? We led that ever since it was in history, since it started. Matter of fact, when there was contests to keep me and Stan from winning it, we were at another level, higher than the other stores, yet we kept on winning. So Stan and I, we became real good friends. He's dead now, but I consider him one of my strongest assets for assisting me. Back in them days, the meat department was a separate union. So I wasn't able to go back and learn how to cut meat. But Stan, we talked daily, all the time after work. And I learned the process of how meat was cut, processed, where steaks came from, taught me a lot. So with that knowledge and with his support, 37% of the sales in the Black area is meat. It's still 37%. Some areas it's 39%. So I learned that if you were going to be successful in a grocery store, it has to be based around the meat. But why is that? Black people still today, they go into the meat department first, buy all the meat and everything they need. Then they determine from that, how much money do I have left for this other stuff? Well, in white neighborhoods, meat's about 22%, produce is about 20%. So meat is not, the white people base their meals around the salad, advertising. And even today, although I'm able to buy whatever I want, I myself, when I go in the store, I go to the meat department first. And although I have the money to buy anything I want, it's just an old tradition that I've learned a long time ago. I still adhere to it. And if you look at me, I've been Black all my life.
No.
So if you talk to me about what we eat and what we won't eat, if you're not Black, you really can't tell me. If you talk about the SAMI report, oh, I know what that is. We're talking about a sales analysis and sales statistic on what people eat and how stores should be merchandised. Well, that's the way stores are set up today. It's not that the stores are prejudiced today. I don't contribute to that. It's the way stores were set up and designed years ago. So that format has not changed. Unfortunately, because of what we eat, it's not considered. So all the big boys that have multiple stores, they still merchandise based on what the marketing analysis is for white people. And I don't see that as prejudice, but I see that as not knowing your customer and really, to be honest with you, not even caring. Because if you go to the black area, you find all these meat stores and these mom and pop stores. And what do? They merchandise all the things that the black folks eat. If I talk to the average white man about chitlins, and some know about the fried ones, but if you're talking about chitlins, you mean the ones we boil and put a lemon in them so we'll even have a desire to eat them? Well, they don't know about that. And if I talk to them about greens, well, some of them eat greens, but when you talk to them about, oh, you talking about endive, romaine? No, that's lettuce, sir. I'm talking about greens. They don't deal with it. And as we call it soul food, it is soul food because it's food for our souls. That's what we were raised on. And back in the day, it was a known fact that the people that worked the fields, that drank the pot liquor, they were healthier, stronger, had more endurance. So I know the value of that, but more so than anything, and why I'll be successful. When you talk to me, you'll feel, if you don't really know me, you feel that my conversation is arrogant, pompous, and you may even call me ignorant. Sir, that's not it. The real deal is I have so many certifications, not even on my resume. Cornell University, all the universities, all the tests that I've taken, all the things that I participated in and learned on my own to become the best. It's not arrogant or ignorance. It's pride and confidence. I know without a shadow of a doubt that store will be profitable. We will merchandise for the people. And if you know anything about me, there's an old dying art, as I call it, and I'm going to call that customer service. People just as soon as cuss you out today. They don't care if you're shopping there and spending money. That won't be the attitude that prevails in my store. As a matter of fact, I just hired someone today that is an expert in that field, happens to be partially blind. We talked in depth today. He took the name Greenleaf and took the 4 letters and threw some stuff at me. I won't say it now because I have to make sure that no one else has that. And that will be incorporated in our name, and it'll be part of our business strategy as well as a way of life for us.
Okay. Let me ask you another question, Mr. Lawrence, in terms of the history of the store. I know the store initially opened for the first time. When was it? Was it last year that it initially opened?
Actually, to be honest with you, it opened a little over a year ago. But out of lack of knowledge, be honest with you, bad management, poor merchandising, and anybody that comes in the store, not just the black person. If you go into Italian neighborhood, Chinese neighborhood, I happen to have experience in all those stores, even the Jewish neighborhood. If you don't have matzo balls and gefilte fish, you don't have anything. So, and the other thing, and it's one of the reasons I've delayed the opening, I won't call the company's name because I'm not trying to slander them, but I won't sign up with them. You have to sign up with a store that is conscientious of what is needed at your location. Unfortunately, a lot of these stores sign up with distributors that require a minimum. Let's just, for simplicity, say it's 25,000 a week. Let's say you're only ordering 20,000. They will ship you 5,000, and you will have to pay for it. That doesn't lend itself to your growth. And even worse than that, they advertise for 50 stores or whatever amount they have, not even giving consideration of what is needed for your neighborhood. Well, I've searched along for over 7 or 8 months, and I found 2. Had a big meeting with them today, and I asked them to make me a suggested order. I asked one of them to put together a planogram for the store based on a velocity report that I got out of the store and with the consideration of what I want in the store. You said, well, how do you know about all the product in the store when you have over 30,000 stock keeping units? Well, remember I told you up front, I've been eating as a Black man for a long time.
Mhm.
So I know what we eat. I have the good fortune over the years to become my own meat cutter. I wasn't able to, even though I managed stores because of Local 88, which is a union, didn't give me the opportunity to go learn how to cut meat. So what I did is on my own from other stores. They knew me as a Black store manager. So I would go in those stores 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, talk to the night man, which I knew was part-time. And some instances I even knew. And I'd say to him, hey, I know you're going to be real busy tonight, and you have to get everything ready and set up for tomorrow. I'd like to work free and help you tonight. What do you mean free? Exactly what I said, free. You teach me the process, and I'll be one of the most productive guys you ever had. He said, oh, well, now let's be honest about it. He wasn't supposed to do that. But knowing that I'm going to do all this work for him, he was glad to entertain it. And in addition to that, when I told him, look, I run a store myself. If something happens to you, you can come to my store, and I guarantee you employment. Not only do I guarantee you employment, I can guarantee you a salary higher than what you make here at night. And I know the night differential. So I didn't have any trouble learning how to cut meat. I didn't. So excuse me, I'm cut this off.
No problem.
Yeah, it's off. So that's how I learned how to cut meat. And I find back in the day, anything of value, even though there wasn't classrooms for us and as a Black person, when I learned construction work, and I've been criticized and called all kinds of names for this, I worked for free. And by working for free, they gave me an opportunity. Black people call me all kinds of names, and you can imagine some of them. But here's what I said. My statement to them is simply this. Is college education free? What are you talking about free? No, it isn't free. You know better. I said, well, there is no one in this area or in this city, in this state, Black, training to be any of these positions in a construction job. They might have a Black man cleaning up, but he's not laying any bricks. So I taught myself how to lay bricks through those guys. And I became the best mortar mixer in the industry. Other people sought me. They didn't even realize I was working for free. So from that, I would bring donuts and coffee every day and cold water in the summertime. And my retort to them was, hey, look, if you want some of this, you got to let me get off this mortar mix and get me up on that scaffold. No, you can't do that. Well, I wouldn't give them any. So I learned how to mix mortar in such a way, we call them hods. I put them on a pole and put foot down there that I made and tied them to the end of the scaffold and filled them with the mortar mix based on where they were. So at each end of the scaffold, I had hods full of mortar mix ready to go. I had a board on that same level with a lighter mix that give it time to set up before they were ready. I had that on every level. I'd turn a radio on, dance and talk about, hey, you know what, I'm too fast for you white boys. And I ain't doing a damn thing. So they would say, oh, get up here and get on here and put the mortar on them bricks. Well, be honest with you, I was so excited when they told me that. I was young, I was fast, I was energetic. I ran all day long. All day long. I trained myself, paced myself, run all day long. When I got up on the scaffold, I wasn't ready. I was too fast. I was spilling mortar everywhere. So I went home that night, got on my knees and said, Lord, I really want to get on this scaffold. I've been working here a year, and now I'm not able to do it. What is it? So I lay down, and in my sleep, something said, watch. Just watch. Watch. You qualify. Just watch. So the next day I watched. And what I saw was, instead of a sift on, they picked it up out the box and they glided by twisting their wrists. Oh man, I was so happy. I was so elated that I turned the music on and said, oh, look, I said some bad words. Oh, blank. Look at me go. Hey, y'all ain't going to be able to afford me in a minute. So they laughed and had fun with me. And they said, well, we like him because he works hard.
And that seems to be your moniker, I guess, from throughout your career in terms of hard working.
Yes.
Let me ask you a couple other questions as it relates to food deserts. You know, we all know, talk about food deserts and the lack of, fresh fruits and vegetables and those type of things in predominantly Black communities.
Yes.
Because there's such a need for that. Why is it that food deserts exist in predominantly Black communities?
Well, first of all, and truthfully, and I'm not talking about prejudice, they don't know how. And because of their design and how the store is planogrammed, that means laid out, and the product mix is fixed. So even if they had a Black manager, he wouldn't be able to buy and merchandise for that neighborhood. So to me, that's a competitive advantage. Well, why is it? Well, if you know, like I know, that when farmers come to Produce Row or United Foods or Hymus or any of those places that bought by wholesale from them, they won't accept every size of watermelon, cantaloupe, or any of that. They only want 2 sizes. So if you come to St. Louis anytime during that season, you will find 18-wheelers with men sleeping on the ground trying to peddle those off sizes. So what did I do about that? I would approach them laying on the ground, and I'd say, who I was, tell them, show them pictures of my store, show them newspaper clippings, and say to them, I will buy every size that you have. However, you have to give me a competitive advantage because guess what? I'm getting you up off that ground.
Hmm.
And not only getting you off that ground, I know it's a fact that some of you been robbed down here because they know you got a pocket full of money. So, so you can come to me after you go to them. I will pay you cash. You won't wait 7 days, 30 days. I will pay you cash that day and buy everything you got. But guess what? When you're in season, and you're in season now, you got to give me some better prices than you giving them. And guess what I'll do? I know as a fact, those farmers, when they're springtime and when they're in business, man, they wallets got the mumps. But I also know that in the wintertime, when they're fighting to stay in business, and if they didn't make enough money that year, they're almost out of business. So what did I tell them? Guess what? I'll buy all that ship stuff you have. You're getting it from California, Mexico, Florida. And I know the freight's eating you up and you barely staying in business and they're still cherry picking you. Come to me.
Hmm.
I'll
When you
keep,
talk,
I'll keep you in business. So therefore, I know how to service the farmer. Matter of fact, I already have several farmers ready when I open the door.
yeah,
Uh,
you're talking about that, Mr. Lawrence, and the different. What type of difficulty is it that maybe you've encountered over the years, and what do you see might be some of the pitfalls of operating in stores in a predominantly black neighborhood? Because you have probably
yeah,
some expenses that you would not have if the store was in a white area. I mean, you got to maybe have security.
that's true.
You have theft, and so all
Yeah.
those things go into your overhead. So how difficult is it even to be competitive with those additional type of overheads that you normally don't see in predominantly white areas?
Well, one thing I've done, um, first of all, um, I've been studying the industry all my life. And in the last year, since this came about, and I didn't even go there to talk about managing the store. I built custom homes and churches. So Paul McKee wanted me to talk about what could he do and what should he do to be able to put back those homes that he had torn down. So in that conversation, through his research, they pulled up records and pictures 40 years ago, some that I sent you. And then the conversation went from, hey, you know what? As much as I need you to run the store. And one of the first questions out of his mouth was, what about pilferage? What about theft? Well, sir, let me be real with you. You're a white man. And what you hear isn't always true. Well, what do you mean? For instance, you've been open 3-4 years all told. How many stick-ups have you had? None. So you can't say because of pilferage in your neighborhood, that's what ran you out of business. When I walk into your store and I do evaluation of your store, I can tell you right up front, you're not going to be successful. For the same reason I talked to you about earlier, you need to go into the meat department first. So what would I do? Your question, I want to get off. I'm going to have a police station, substation that will be housed inside of my store. That their appearance alone would deter stick-ups, the way the store is set up, and that I'm designing it and putting cameras in it that I might sit up front and see every aisle clearly. That's a deterrent. And then the other thing is black stores lose shopping carts at an alarming rate. You wouldn't believe a simple shopping cart new can cost from $500 to $1,000 a cart.
Mm.
So if you lose 5 or 10 of them and you drive the neighborhood and you see them in somebody's backyard, somebody that intention was, hey, put these in the cart and you know what, I'll just push them down to my house. I'm going to take it back when I go back. But if you only shopping every other week, the store is short of carts. So to me, those carts are bigger liability than any theft. Let's be real. There's a certain amount of pilferage. I don't care what neighborhood you're in. Doesn't matter what color you are. It's always going to be a certain amount of pilferage. So I don't see because people are stealing to run me out of business. And if you go into the big boys, the name brand stores, they throw away a tremendous amount of food. Rather than give it away or donate it, they throw it away. That's why you will see people at night ravaging through the trash cans. Because when they throw it away, it's just as it taken from the shelves. They don't even miss trash or other garbage in there. So how would I combat that? Meat or produce has to be pulled from the shelf every other day, just the standard in the industry. So instead of throwing it away, I can pull it a day early and I can cook it up, have my chef cook it up and sell it at a discount price. I might have a $5 steak and baked potato. So I don't have the loss of sales because I over purchased or nobody came to buy. Everybody knew I know everybody's eating. And I know, and also in addition to being a food desert, other than McDonald's and a few of them, and if you want to eat them every day for the rest of your life, good luck.
Mm.
I will have box lunches. I've already tested the market there. We opened the store. I just shut it down 8 weeks ago. I opened the store from 10 to 2 to get the feel and give me the knowledge of what could be done in the store for as lunches for the neighborhood. It was successful. However, it created such a problem. The newspaper came and they thought the whole store was open. And unfortunately, somebody that was there on good faith watching the store allowed this reporter to go and get something she said she needed. They took it off the shelf. I don't know if she intentionally looked through the rabbits to the store to find it, but if the store has been closed for a while, it would make sense to know that there's some outdated merchandise on the shelf. She took it and ran an article on it.
Mm.
She came back when she heard that, wow, these people taking out shopping bags full of stuff. The store must be open. I invited her in, kind of nice to her, didn't fuss, didn't cuss. And I wanted her to see what was going on. She's going to write an article in the next few days. It'll be in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. She interviewed me personally about 12 weeks ago. I spoke with her for about a half hour a couple of days ago. She asked me more questions. And I asked her simply this. Now that you came in the store, Now that you realize that the lunch specials mean so much, those bags that they were taking out, shopping bags, actually was box lunches, 10, 15, and 20 to a person. Those shopping bags was full.
Hmm.
So, and while she was there, I had 5 or 6 people come up to the door, and they were a little bit distraught. You got the lights on. Why can't I go shopping? Sir, there's nothing to sell in this store other than hot food. I'm doing a test to see how viable this department is. And that way, I know what to buy, and I know also how to staff it, how many people I would need. And I would determine from that, it had a history of being open on Sunday. I listened to everybody that didn't know much, and I allowed them briefly to give me the idea of opening on Sunday. But after I did all my research and all my study, I determined we're not going to be open on Sunday. Sunday, if they want to come in the store, the ministers want to come in the store, and the politicians, they can book it, they can reserve it, and we will pay people a premium to service them. But so that's that. And then the other thing, I shut it down. And why did you shut it down? Because the people that came with all the lights on, and I respected what they were saying. I mean, you know, I'm well versed in conflict resolution. The gentleman I hired today will be teaching that, as well as customer service, as well as a lady friend of mine, well known, asset to the community in many, many ways. She actually opened up all the Social Security offices in the state of Missouri. She will be visiting, teaching a class for me. We will teach customer service, and all the managers will go through a conflict resolution class. Customer service will be, like the young folks say, on and popping.
Hmm. Speaking of that, when you talk about that in customer service and employees and help, you know, get it at the times that we're living in right now, so many employers are saying they have such a difficulty finding and hiring employees. I saw an article today in the newspaper where the post office said that they're having such a hard time hiring people. Matter of fact, that the mail, sometimes people don't even get their mail delivered because they don't have the manpower. What would you do different? I know you just talked about the customer service to be able to.
Something I'm going to do that probably is going to revolutionize the market. In the last 6 months, I've interviewed hundreds of people. And guess what? They're considered disabled. So what are you saying? These people are on Social Security. But everybody doesn't know Social Security has a program where they go out to the market, and if you will place their people and get them off Social Security, get them a real check in their hand, they'll pay half of their salary. I've hired 30 of those people. I've also hired, they have another program. This is from Social Security. And listen, I had to go to class to learn what I'm talking to you about. I never imagined in my entire life. See, the programs that are offered today weren't offered back in my time. So I had to actually go to school, a Social Security school, to learn how to operate within the parameters and the guidelines of them, and how to hire, how to talk to people, not make feel like they're disadvantaged because they're handicapped. So I learned that even the people in wheelchairs, although there's no sit-down position in a grocery store, and I tell people if it was as a manager, I would probably be king of that position. So, so to make things more palatable and understanding to them, if you go into Costco, Costco has a program. Wow, you walking around the store and the lady's handing out samples. You walk up to her, she's putting little samples in, and you're eating them samples and trying it. And she's a salesperson. She don't ask. She puts the package in your cart. It's for you to take it out. Most people don't, because if it's a good product and it's likable, they leave it in. So that's my offer to the handicapped people. You can be a greeter. I've been turned down. No, I don't want that. Well, guess what? It starts you off at $17 an hour with no experience. And we give you raises. You might get a $3 raise per hour. You may go to $20. That's a livable wage. Better than Social Security. And you recognize better. And how do I handle the people that are some have hip replacements? Lady told me, she said, look, I can't stand up 8 hours. Well, you're assuming that you're going to work 8 hours. Nobody works 8 hours straight. But since I have all this knowledge of the union stores, and at one time I was a union organizer, I organized 905 stores and the gym stores that used to be non-union. I organized them.
Will this store be union?
No, not right away, because with the help that I have, the numbers don't support it, because if I wanted to become union, there's a $6 premium per hour on top of the salary. That's in order to be union. You can check me out. These are statements of fact. How do I know that? Because I study that every night when I get home. Sometimes I don't go to bed. I might sleep where I am on the couch, because I take pride in knowing what I'm speaking about, knowing that I am not just because I say it. There's no one living that has my experience and my expertise. So in order to be on top of everything, and how do I know that I'm good? I worked for all the major chains. And back in the day, 40 years ago, some executives wasn't getting $2,000 a day plus expenses. That was my consultant fee. And they were glad to pay it. But guess what they wanted to talk about? They didn't want to talk about merchandising. No, we talked about that. They wanted to talk about how to solve pilferage. So for $2,000 a day, man, I talked a whole lot about pilferage. I might have embellished a little bit. But nevertheless, that's what they were paying. That's what they wanted to hear. That's what I gave them. And I was flown all around Piggly Wigglies, all across the United States, making that kind of money, talking about pilferage. So that's one of the differences that I will make in the store. In addition to that, it will always be a training store. I already know, and I'm giving you some stuff that's not even out there yet. So this is a scoop. There's a second store. We talked about it. We designed it. It's in the making. This is a 20,000 square foot store. It's going to be a 10,000 square foot store, which is more appropriate for that area. And to make the rents less, we're going to have the rental space above it. So that means the rent will be cheaper. I'm getting ready to, if they said I need to become union when that store opens, I will be ready. In addition to that, and even the store I'm in, senior citizens have a problem. Let's be honest, we're all on some kind of medication. Those that don't have the funds to pay these exorbitant medical bills and expensive medicine, one of my medicines that used to be $75, and I had two of those for $150, it became $750 each. Well, let's be honest, not many people can afford that. So what I intend and what I'm doing in the store that I am in, I have been searching and researching. I can't call the name because we haven't made the deal yet. I will have a pharmacy from a huge company.
Yeah, that was my next question. I was getting ready to, so you're already ahead of me.
So I've already anticipated that. One of the conditions, and let me say this up front, I don't side with the people that disrespect Paul McKee. Paul McKee is a visionary with a vision that far exceeds any of us. The reason that those homes have not been built, very few people know that he put out a program of 100% financing to veterans. 100%. So what are you saying? And my contribution to him is everybody can't afford a $400,000 home. So if you're going to get some disabled veterans, let's build some multifamilies. Let's go back to the old days. Let's build some multifamilies. So now instead of one person paying, you got four. Right away, you have equity in those homes. And if you build it and you just called it a veterans village, or this is the home of all veterans and, you know, these people of war, do you think you could come in there and tear that neighborhood up? Ain't going to happen.
So would these be, like when you say multifamily, like duplexes and fourplexes that would be for sale, that would be condominiumized then, you're saying?
No, it will be, if 3 bedrooms, it may have 4 units that are 3 bedrooms. 4. So instead of 400,000 for one person, it will be 4 incomes and all veterans. It don't have to be all veterans. It could be his family.
So all these would be contained in one unit then. So in other words, a person would buy a 4 unit, they would in turn be a landlord and then rent those spaces out.
Absolutely.
Okay, I follow you. Okay, but still would be one owner, but with 4 units.
Yes, yes. Okay. So the chance of that failing is nil. The chances of that appreciating is wonderful.
Right now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And in addition to that, the store that I'm talking about, it's going to be on, I'm going to say it, it's going to be on Grand and Cass. What's so significant about that?
That's where the donut store used to be at, right on over there, right?
Yes, sir. You know, donut store. You sit back in the yard.
Yep.
Well, right down the street from that, they've already started it. It's very successful. They build these tiny houses. That's within walking distance of where the store is going to be. So that means they'll be able to walk to that store. It will have its own pharmacy well-trained people capable of handling these prescriptions at a cheaper price and more efficient at handling it, so the people aren't sitting around waiting to be served. Uh, it will be a pleasure for them to come in, and we will be like Costco. They could, if they wanted to, they could walk around the store and get enough samples for a free meal. And I don't mind that.
Yeah. Whenever the new spa center, Geo Center, is actually completed, it will employ, I think, roughly 3,100 people. And
Yes.
looking at it from that standpoint, do you see the possible demographics of your shoppers changing once this
Yes.
store is in, that will actually cause you to pivot to
Absolutely.
different types of foods that will appeal?
Yes.
Because you're talking tech jobs, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
normally you get that many jobs that are paying that type of money.
Yes.
You see very few blacks that are in the higher percentage of those that are holding
Yes.
those positions. So how do you
Now, what
feel?
you're saying now, if that was the demographics now, the store that I'm going to retrofit would need it. It would need it because it lends itself to a higher income. When you walk into my store now, you walk into the ice cream department, and I mean hand dip. Hey man, we're talking about people barely able to buy meat. That's the last thing they do. So, but it lends itself to a higher quality of people with higher incomes. So yes. So, but we will always keep in mind to make sure that my legacy goes on. Paul McKee's a wise man. So what him and Piggy, his lawyer, has done, they went to the colleges and they're recruiting students that will get a credit for what? To follow me around, to find out what I'm doing in those stores, so that my legacy, hey, look, a couple of years from now, hey, I might have want to ride off into the sunset. And I will be able to do that, but guess what? My legacy will live on because those students will be getting credits to do what? To be able to write down and mimic and show others how and why. So to me, it's more than a job. It's more than me sticking my chest out and say, oh, I'm the manager of this. It means that a new way of living, a new lifestyle, beneficial to us as Black people, low-income people. I also will cater to Mexican people. Why? Because they have the same problem. Chinese people have a little more money, so they've opened up their own wholesale places, and that's great. So in order for my teachings to be perpetuated, I want them to, you got to remember now, Paul McKee's a good businessman. He's never going to let what's happened to him at this store happen at any other store. So my store will be a training store. I don't care if you spend 40 years with another company. I don't care what your position is, even if you've been a store manager there for 40 years. If you don't know how to merchandise for the neighborhood, and if your store is not designed and built to support that neighborhood, you might as well close the doors.
You said something about the food. Is there a seating area within the store, and what kind of capacity do they have?
Absolutely.
Those that want to eat lunch or
Well,
whatever there?
when the gentleman that right now he's the chef there, he comes from one of the soul food restaurants that was well known back in the day, right where your mom worked in that area. He's from that ilk. He's about 30 years younger than me. And my interviewing today was with the intention and purpose of taking him out of that position, making him a co-manager. I have an assistant manager. His desire and where he benefits me is he has no training as assistant manager. As a matter of fact, I've signed him up in a program now that would teach him how to be assistant manager. The gentleman that works his name is Christopher Moore. He is so versatile that 6 months ago, just the two of us, we removed everything off the shelves, everything. Inspector came because we're going to get our license and permits. And we couldn't throw it away. We couldn't give it away. We had to physically open every can. And now, there's 30,000 stock keeping units. That's just one. So can you imagine how much work we did? And just the two of us. We had to open up every can in front of the inspector, pour that contents into a 30-gallon can while they poured Purex on it or Clorox. Then it was taken out to the cans, put in the cans, and immediately the next day it had to be picked up. And even in the midst of all of that, there was people there trying to rake through, but the smell and what we had done to it deterred them. And that was a good thing. So with that in mind, he will be a co-manager. We have all our permits. He's licensed. He's paid all his dues. Everything is up to date. The next thing that I'm working on right now is getting our liquor license.
I was just getting ready to ask you about that.
Yes, sir.
What I found in stores that actually are individuals that operate in areas such as this, a lot of them say, well, we can't make it without the alcohol sales. What percentage of sales and what type of gross profit margin are there on alcohol sales, and what percentage of sales have you forecasted for this store?
Well, be honest with you, alcohol, tobacco, and especially for this store, not because it's a black store, but if you research, you'll find that the way that it's set up, we're right close to Illinois. We're within walking distance of the highway. We are fortunate enough to have the cheapest taxes on liquor and cigarettes than anybody in the state. Statement of fact. So not only will we be able to not just match, we can surpass. So I will say, on an average, and I'm going to be low about it because you got to remember, in those neighborhoods, although you have liquor and cigarettes, the people are going to buy them if they may buy them and not eat. So traditionally, it'll be 10 to 20%. If I market it right, you don't see sales per se on liquor and cigarettes. People will buy them anyway. But if I have a lower markup on them, I will automatically be cheaper than anybody else. And I already know from the service station, we also are part of a service station. It's 22, almost 22 million when you put the store and the service station together. Service station is doing so well in every department that a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to say maybe 4 weeks ago, we did a facelift on it, and we're under a different umbrella, and I guess cheaper. The service station right now in itself is carrying the vacant store. That's how much profit that they're making over there. They don't have per se hot food where it's cooked there, but they may serve breakfast. They don't have real full meals, but they may have a or most service stations, they come under the umbrella of they sell chicken. And I won't mention the franchise because they pitched me today and I said no, because we're going to have our own chicken. I already know what your ingredients are. And the gentleman that's running that department for me, Chris Moore, he worked for you before. We have our own flour. Yes, I said it. We have our own flour. And I will invite you down there to taste our fried chicken. You'll be back again and again and again. We have our own flour. So, although that store is successful in its way, we will even be more successful. We will always have dollar coffee. We will always have the biggest soft drink for $1 any day. We will eventually evolve to the point, before I close it down, we had barbecue Saturday. And people came from far and wide to get that barbecue. Barbecue will be Thursdays. Fish. We had a lady there that paid us to come to our place so she can cook fish for her customers.
Friday fish in St. Louis is always a big thing. Fish and spaghetti. Back south and
yes, sir. So we will incorporate a lot of things and bring back a lot of things. It will be a store of pleasure. All my employees will be made to feel this is a family place. You will feel it when you hit the door, from the way they talk to you, how they address you. And believe it or not, you say their checkers aren't salespeople. Yes, they are. And why are they salespeople? Because I would teach them to be salespeople. When they walk up to you, you greet them with a hello, how are you? You ask them, did you find anything? So what does that mean? That's actually a process of sales. And you will always thank them in the end. And further than that, you will give them a card that when they use it through their church or as individuals, they will be granted a refund based on sales. So they will become participants in your store. We will have, we'll call and come and pick it up. We will have delivery. Talk to someone today who is big in the industry of picking up and moving people from place to place. It's a process of Uber. We will have that. We will also have will call, where you call it in, pay for it over the phone. Let me know when you arrive. It'll be waiting on you, and people will put it in your cart. We will have what I'm going to refer to, not in a negative way, and if it's coming through as negative, I apologize. We will have Welfare Day, Senior Citizen Day, where we will actually go to some of the senior citizen buildings on the day they receive their checks. We will pick them up in buses, bring them to the store, cash their checks, put their merchandise back on the bus, and they will be escorted to their living quarters. My guys will be trained to not only help them get it to their room, but to place it where they want in their cabinets. That's just another extension of the neighborhood.
Yeah, man. Mr. Lawrence, I tell you, I'm listening to you talk where you have so many ideas. And how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 83.
83. Man,
Yes,
you
sir.
got a lot of energy for 83 years old, probably more than most 20-year-olds.
Well, it has been said that I will outwork a 20-year-old.
You know, when I listen to you talking about all the different, you know, just revenue streams that you want to create in the store, these are some things that I've never heard of before. When you talked about Social Security paying half of the salary,
Yes,
Uber and some of those things,
yes.
Instacart, that's something that's kind of prevalent in the industry right
Yes.
now. But when you talked about, the importance of knowing your customers, what it is that they buy, and to be able to, to have those items, to have them readily available. When you talked about, the welfare day, which, and I did not
Means a
take
lot to me.
offense to that, any offense to that, but I understand what it is that you're trying to say in terms of being able to be customer friendly, and which I think that's the big one, because even now in this day and age, I go somewhere and I shop, they don't smile, they don't say thank you,
Yeah.
almost like they doing you a favor
Absolutely.
for waiting on you. And I'm like, my goodness, I would fire that person in a minute if I was running this store or whatever. So I applaud you for
Thank you, sir. And
for the
although I say it, I wear it in my heart and in my mind. I don't believe in firing. I believe once you're trained and indoctrinated on what company policy is, you fire yourself by violating what is company policy. I've hired a gentleman today that will be teaching that, and you'll be able to sit down on my time and my money to be trained to be proficient at your job. So no one could say, well, I didn't get the message. Well, let's be real. My managers, including myself, highly trained in conflict resolution. I'm fortunate enough to be around long enough, and I'll say 4 letters, and at first you won't know what I'm talking about. DISC. What are you talking about?
do it yourself.
But guess what it really means? Dominant, influence, social, and conscientious. Those are the traits and characteristics of everybody. That's old school. Now they say he's a strong A. Well, I'm saying you're a D. Same thing. But my meaning goes into more depth. So why is that important? Years ago, and some of the Fortune 500 companies still use it today, you do a preference test. You don't hire all D's. These are the dominant people. These are usually your managers. I's influence it. They have the ability in times if they want, as an influencing person, to be a high D, dominant person, or they can be a step down social. And so when you hire in these Fortune 500 companies, you don't want all these I's, S's, or C's. You want a good mixture of them. So if you know the characteristic of each one of those people, not only can you train and motivate them, you can train them with the ability to be flexible. And what does that mean? That means in time of conflict, you will know who you're talking to, and you will know to put your hand up and call the manager. What would I do? I will come over to that person. First of all, I'll tell my checker or whatever his status is or hers, take a 15-minute break. And then I'll ask that lady or man, how can I be of service to you? What is it that you need? And what has challenged you to the point that you feel like cussing? And I will listen. And if it's not just BS, I will take a note, and that will be a part of my sales training the next day. And as a token of my appreciation and for her to come, if it's serious enough, out of my pocket, I will pay for her groceries, his or her groceries. Why would I do that? It lets them know that they're important to me. Not only important to me, but they're important to the people that work here. Now, if what she has endured is egregious, on the way to taking that break, I will call out a number and my co-manager will escort them to the time clock. And they will be immediately fired, dismissed. And the reason for that, I don't want them to, look, just me being the manager, or whatever you want to call me, I'm going to get respect. But the respect that they give me, I want that to be the order of the day for everybody. I don't believe in horseplay on the job. I don't believe in joning, talking about your mother.
I haven't heard that word in a long time. Most young people don't know what that means when they saying joning. I think
yeah. So I don't
flag
believe in that.
like that. Yeah.
Because it always leads to something. Maybe the person that you could do that with yesterday came in that door today with heavy burdens and not ready for that.
Mr. Lawrence, I got
yes.
a couple more questions for
Sure.
you. Well, I really enjoyed this interview, and you really shared the light on a lot of things. And I think they made an excellent choice in coming to run this.
I sincerely appreciate that, and you will find out everything I'm saying. I will do that and more.
Yeah, but a couple other questions I have for you. One, how many employees once the store is fully stocked or staffed will you have? And then will employees receive any type of incentive? In other words, did they get
absolutely
10% off on their grocery shopping or anything like that?
Yes. First of all, I will have a total of 40 people. 30 of them will have challenges. 10 of them will be people that are higher, will make the same thing as the handicapped people, but they'll be my candidates for promotions for as the gentleman that I've hired for the produce manager. Never been a produce manager. He came to me out of the program and said he wanted to be a stock clerk. And my retort to him was, sir, Can you pick up 100 pounds of potatoes? 100-pound bag of sugar? Oh, of course I can. Can you do it all day?
Hmm.
Can you do that 20, 35 times a day? Because guess what, sir? Sugar and all those bulk items, that's what they weigh. Can you keep up? I have a production. My model is not something that is standard in the industry. It's something that I made up. I live by it. I train by it. I know how many cases per day you need to. And I won't say it because getting started, the people that I'm hiring won't be at that level. However, when I teach them my method, they will be at that level. And what is my method? Everything that I do has a system. When stock comes in the door, instead of dragging it out to the shelf, cutting it and putting it on the shelf, it will be processed in the back room. And my back room is all set up that represents every aisle in the store. So it will be cut and stamped and priced in the back. So the first people that come on, if you're a lightweight, let's just say I know you can't handle all that weight, you will work the soft goods. What is that? Toilet paper, Kleenex, you work that out.
Hmm.
That is the only thing that you will take out to the floor, cut and stamp on the floor. Now, those guys that work those other aisles, everybody will be assigned an aisle. What are you talking about, assigned an aisle? If you are aisle one, you will exclusively work aisle one. Not only will you stock it, you will order it too. So if I come to you and I say, Mr. Pittman, aisle one has Del Monte corn. How many boxes of Del Monte corn do you need to have just to be in business from truck to truck? You will know that. If I come into the store and I look down the aisle and I know that number one is Mr. Pittman, I will go to Mr. Pittman and say, Mr. Pittman, why am I seeing holes in the shelf?
Hmm.
Oh, he said, I'm glad you asked, Mr. Lawrence. That's on back order. I've called and I've reordered it, and it will be in on our next load. And I'll ask you this, and you will know this. Why do you put the fastest movers on the bottom? Or do you put them on the bottom? You say, absolutely on the bottom. Well, why is that? Because the slow movers, you put them on the top at eye level as impulse. They're going to bend down and get what they want. So you will know why about everything in the store. You will become an expert in that aisle. I'll move you from aisle to aisle till you proficient enough. Now I can make you, guess what? A grocery manager. You will train and teach what I just taught you. Everybody will be taught something every day. Every day.
Hmm.
Those that want a promotion, if they want to get out of that department and do something else, if it's beneficial to the store and them, I will make it happen.
You know, listening to you talk, I can see this thing could actually be a blueprint
Yeah.
for
And
other
that's my drive.
stores that'll want to operate, you know, in areas such as where the
Absolutely.
store is located at. So I could
Absolutely.
really see this growing legs. Uh,
Absolutely.
I think Paul made a wise choice.
Well, I
And
appreciate you saying that. I have great respect
or,
for him.
yeah,
And as a footnote to him, I promised him this. I won't try to run your company or what you do. Please don't try to run mine for me.
hmm
We agree in principle and we agree that the success of the story will be based on what I do. And I will never apologize for the knowledge that I've acquired over the years. I'm 100% to be prepared to teach any and everybody.
Mm.
I want you to become a store manager. I like to see more people my color in the business. Because if you're in the business, that assures me that the Black community, the underprivileged areas, the food deserts will disappear.
Mm.
So for me, it's not the money that I make, but the joy I get out of saying, hey, here's a man from a foster home. Wow, he one hell of a legacy he left behind.
Mm.
And because of him, the city is not treated like the stepson. And the people that run the city stores, wow, not only are they proficient, they're courteous, they're smart, they're knowledgeable, every department. And to me, that would be one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. And let me say this, and I'm not a martyr and I don't want to be hurt or shot or killed. But in the event that in my journey of doing what I'm doing, and for some reason I got hurt or killed at the store, feel sorry for me because you know what? It's what I wanted to do. And if in the end it means that no more food deserts and no more impoverished people that even if they have the money, you go to the stores and they don't have it. And I know as a fact the people that working in those stores, if they learn my techniques and if they really wish to, they'll be six-figure people. Six-figure. I know the average grocery store pays $80,000 to $85,000 a year, and every now and then you'll find one of those store managers that make 100. That might be a Walmart or one of those huge stores. And I know that they're limited in what they can do and not do. That won't stop me. So what I'll be training is exactly what I'm speaking to you about. And within 6 months, you'll be able to approach anybody in that store. Say, what is the gross margin on meat? What percentage of the sale is meat? They'll pop it off to you 37% because it'll be taught. And in teaching that, they will know exactly why the method that I have works, and it's worked for years and years. I've pulled many whole stores out of the hole. Central City Foods was a store that had all the sales in the world, but you could go in the store and you could actually lay down in the shelves and not touch anything.
Mm.
They had that much business and support. I also know that the pilferage that people think is in the stores is not the customers.
It's employees. Yes.
People that are in control. People do your receiving.
Mm.
They make deals with them. Hey, look, I got $1,000 worth of meat in here. Why don't I give you 700 and you and I split 150? Well, to the guy that's a salesperson for a company and he's making 10 or 15 stops a day, he's making a tremendous salary on the side that exceeds his regular earnings, but he's contributing to the loss of jobs at the store. I'm pretty strict. I would do all my receiving. And if you're the bread man and you open up a box and say, hey, I got 10 boxes and here's one, and you open it and say, you see it's 20 loaves of bread in there. I said, that's wonderful, but guess what? I don't bind a pig in and blanket. You need to open up every box
Mm.
because I know this happens. So I will do some things that is not customary. Most receiving is done at the back door.
Mm-hmm.
There will be some receiving will be done at my front door.
Mm.
Bread and milk. I don't need you running through my back room. Hey, if it's not a Friday or Saturday, which it should be stocked already, come on through the front door. And guess what? You got to come by me. I need to count all that. And if that offends you, don't come back. And I'm sincere about that because it only offends you if you have intentions of shortchanging me. So if I catch you at your act, I'm going to be courteous to you and say, look, I'm not going to call your company. But when you come in from now on, I want you to come in breaking those boxes down. I don't care if it's potato chips. The next time you come in without doing that, you'll be barred from here, and I will call your company and report on you that you're in with the intention of pilfering from me. Once that gets around, people are not going to want to do that. The only other person that I will, and I told you up front, and I wasn't lying, the store's going to be open from 8 to 8, closed on Sunday. That means I got to be in the store my normal hours with the traffic and all that. I need to be in the store at 6 in the morning. Closes at 8. Usually it takes 2 hours after closing to get out. So I'm going to be in the store from 6 to 10 every day, 6 days a week and more. So I know I'm going to work 96 to 100 hours a week. But as a manager, it's not how much work I can do. And if I use my training skills, I won't have to work those hours. So my style is this. I train you to be honest. I set up systems that will assure that you're honest. If I walk through and you receiving from me and you're a manager and that person rolls on in by you, you count the boxes and let him go, you will disappear. And because what I'm saying to you is what I teach and train, and if you're not willing to follow my policy, hey, they're not going to fire 40 people. They're going to get rid of me. You got a bad football team. Who do they fire?
They get rid of the coach. Yeah.
So I have to protect myself. People know me. They talk about me fondly, though, but they say, man, I'll do anything for you. The man will fire his mama. And that's true because there's no need of both of us being out of work. Somebody got
and on that note, Mr. Lawrence, you didn't say a whole lot about your family. You have children, wife? Or...
Yes. I have a wife, and my youngest is 25 years old. She's getting married September 15th. We're preparing to do all that I can for her. I've taught her as well as all my kids. I'm fortunate. My second son, my first son, living and working, but my second son and my twin daughter, they were scholars. They honored me by being exceptional. My son got out of the service. He put 22 years in the military, in the Navy. When he got out, the first thing he did was applied for 2 jobs, and he got 2 offers. And he called me immediately and said, Dad, I'm in California, and you know the incomes. I said, no, I understand, son. Get to the point.
Mm-hmm.
He says, this one job, uh, I go in and they're going to pay me, you know, California have high salaries. They're going to pay me 95,000 to start and accompany the car. So that's wonderful. What's the next job? Well, it's a job selling to the military. I said, well, how old are the people that own the company? He said, well, it's a private company. He says, well, the owner's 75 and his assistant is 65. I said, you're going to go to work there? He said, but Dad, they pay $10,000 less. I said, I don't care what they pay. He said, what's your point? You're going to buy that company. Buy it? You're going to buy it. Because those gentlemen are going to want to retire within 5 to 10 years. Or come to find out, he was there 4 years and they offered him to buy it.
Wow.
So he bought it. And now he said, this is a consulting company, Dad. What am I going to do? Oh, he had all the big names. You name them. He had them. Black and Decker, you name them. I said, you're going to turn it into a selling company. That's the same thing that you taught people how to buy from one distributor and sell it to the military. You're going to do that yourself. And his first year out, he bid it on a big job, and they awarded him a $5 million contract for 5 years. And they turned around the next month and gave him another $5 million contract. They allowed him to make 10%. He was an instant millionaire. So I taught him everything that I talked to you about, the disc styles and how to sell and how to meet and how to greet people, how to be respectful, how to be honest, how to be fair, how to negotiate without being upset, how to train your people, how to respect your people, how to demand from them, reward them. That's the policy that he took. Within 5 years, he had $5 million. Well, he had millions in his pocket, but he had $5 million in his 401k.
Oh
So,
my goodness. Wow.
plus, he owned a house in Temecula, which he paid $500,000 for. He owned a house right across from the airport. You could walk to the airport, and it was $800,000. And he sold a $500,000 house. I told him what to do. He went into the area. I call it put rouge and lipstick on it, paint, and update it, countertops and all that. He made $300,000 just off of that property. And he first rented it to executives, and the second year they bought it. He died. He was on the ship 22 years. He had cancer that he got from asbestos and stuff on the ship. It caused him to need 2 lungs. They put the lungs in. They took years to find the lungs. It had to be the right size. You know, his wife had to be co-signer. She had to be at his side. His mother, my ex, she had to be there. So after he got the 2 hearts, the 2 lungs, his heart started to fail. So they had to put in a pacemaker. So I flew up to San Diego, sat down with him, talked to him, and I said, son, here's what I want you to do. Those lungs are good for about 2 to 4 years. I said, but the average is 2. I want you to have a machine at home that will supply you all the oxygen that you need. You're a multimillionaire. You shouldn't have any problem buying the best walk-around machine that money buys. And I said, I've already established the place. I made an appointment, and we're on our way there. So he went there and bought that, and that allowed him to exceed the time. However, by the time those went out, COVID was prevalent. He caught COVID. He was able to, through his military and through all the support, and every week the kids, I fly a kid up there to stay with him. It allowed him about another year. My daughter and I went up to visit him, and I was the first to go in. They allowed us to stay all day, but only one person at a time for the whole day. So I came back, and I was amazed to see how he was living. And he told me, he said, Dad, I know you taught me to be positive. I know you want me to live. He said, but Dad, when I say this, please don't be upset. I'm tired. He had every type of machine you can name hooked up to him. And everywhere, in every orifice you could name. It was a sad thing. And when you would see him, it almost want to make you break down. But I've always been positive, always been a praying man, and I've always known that you don't allow your feelings to affect somebody that's struggling. So I always talk positive to him, almost like a preacher. So my next day was her turn, and I said to her, name is Tracy. I said, Tracy, when you go into the room, first you need to gather yourself before you go in there, because when you go in there, here's what you're going to see. You're going to see a man hooked up to so many machines, you wonder how he's living. And she said, oh, Dad, I can handle it. Long story short, she went in and she couldn't handle it. Fortunate enough, she broke down, but the nurses quickly took her out and blocked his view. And she went outside in the same building and cried and called me. She said, Dad, you didn't tell me. I said, I told you with the best knowledge that I have. I tried to paint you the picture, but it's hard. But now you see it. Are you able to go back in? If not, so she gathered herself and went in and smiled and laughed, and they had a good time. So all of my kids have made me proud of them. One daughter, his twin, is a speech pathologist. She just recently retired. She had her own patients. She taught in the schools. She's doing well now. She just bought a home. The next daughter, she just bought a home, and she's the caregiver for my ex. We talk every day. All my kids, my birthday, they pick me up, or I meet them at my special place, which is Cracker Barrel, which I'll be there tomorrow, having breakfast, and they take me there, and we have a good time. The waitress, all of them know me real well. You know, they always remember the big tippers. So if you want the best of service, reach in your pocket and give us some good money out. Not the customary 15%. I might give 30%, depending on how I feel and how they treat me, because they set the ambiance for how you feel that day and how you enjoy your meal. They know me so well. When I go in, they tell my kids, "Oh, you don't have to order. We already know what he wants."
What he want, huh?
So I'm proud of all my kids. They've been a blessing to me. They are still supportive. They keep telling me, Dad, why don't you sit down? Why don't you do this? I said, but here's what you don't understand. The reason I have youth and I have movement and I can do anything is because I keep it moving. The day that I sit down and become complacent, the actuaries say you have 2 to 4 years, but the average is 2. So if you know anybody that's over their lifespan that's continually worked 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a day, when they sit down, they have 2 years. The exception is 4. Well, what did God promise us?
10.
70?
Yep.
So if I'm 83, I'm living on somebody else's time. I'm never going to sit down. And
Well,
I don't.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. You've given us a good snapshot of who you are and how you intend on running the business. The next time I come to St. Louis, I'm definitely going to look you up because I would like to personally meet you as well. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for the store. I'm rooting for Paul McKee, and I know they just been beating up.
They've been beating him up, bro.
Yeah, but he seemed to be taking the body shots, and I know he.
Well, his lawyer is a black guy, Piggy, Darryl Piggy. Has been around. Very, very, very prominent lawyer.
Mm-hmm. I remember him when he was in high school, McKinley High School.
Yeah, down to earth brother.
He went to Northwest High School. He was a heck of a basketball player.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was. The game one night, he hit like 40 points.
Oh yeah, that's him
against McKinley. So I remember
trained McKee, and he's taken the softness out of McKee, and he not only is he a great lawyer, he's a great advisor to him, and I really believe that it was him. He knows my family, and he went to school with my in-laws. So I believe that he was the one that found out about my background of being in the business, because if you look through my resumes, because that was so many years ago, and to be honest with you, I don't need a resume now. So, not that I'm so great, but I've established myself in the community. I'm a good carpenter. I'm a good builder. I have all the certifications of any builder. I have more than anybody. Not only am I certified, I'm certified as a trainer. So I have my own architect that I personally, years back, developed, discovered him, pulled him out of a company. He's on his own. I'm so proud of him because about his second year, he built a $5 million house over in Illinois for a client. And he's moved out of a storefront to a freestanding building, and he's built a standalone building of his own. So very proud of him. Not the same color, but that doesn't mean anything to me, because I go by not your color, but the content of your heart. And the way you treat me, I'm going to make it my business to treat you better. So when you come, don't be surprised if I have my chef prepare you one of the best meals you ever ate. And if you tell me how many people you got coming, when you get there, your food will be ready.
My mother wants to come down. She's 80. Well, she'll soon be 85.
Wow, that's great.
And come
I'd love to talk to her.
Yeah, I'm sure
you'd be surprised. We'd have so much in common to talk about.
Yeah, you all can share stories. So when
yes.
She wants to come down. She grew up, they lived on Thomas Street, which is right across the street from the Pruitt-Igoe. Yes. I had an uncle that lived in the Pruitt-Igoe, so I used to go over there and stay with him a lot. So I'm well versed in the St. Louis area, even though I have been gone for quite
My
some
mother
time.
used to live in the Pruitt-Igoe.
Yeah, and then we stayed in the Peabody projects for like 12 or 13 years. Then we moved to North St. Louis, so I'm well versed, and that's why this is such a interest to me because I know, uh, what needs to be done. Well,
Yes.
I know what North St. Louis uh, can be like if, in fact,
And you know
employees.
what it means to us.
Yeah, yeah. You're talking about a neighborhood that's probably 98% predominantly black.
Yes.
Where you have, and it's something you go on one side of Delmar, and then you go on the other side, the Great Divide, as they call
Totally
it.
different in
Yeah, yeah. It's like night day. I used to have an office actually over on Delmar, right across the street from Monica's black restaurant there. That's just east of
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right
Monaco.
below Kings Highway. Was it
Yeah,
Monaco? Yes.
yeah, yeah. I had an
All
office.
the preachers eat there now.
Yeah, yeah. I had an office in the building across the street. I think that they've actually turned into apartments now, but I had an office in there. I used to publish a newspaper about
Oh.
10 years ago, and we actually St. Louis is one of the places that we delivered it at. It was in Illinois and Missouri. So,
What
and
was the paper? You remember the name?
yeah, it was called the Capital City Courier, and I was
Oh, okay.
so it was the
Yeah, I
publisher.
know you're familiar with the World, the Tatler.
Oh, the Evening World. Oh, goodness. If you make the Evening World, most people don't know what about the Evening
Yeah,
World.
I know, brother.
Yeah, and they'd always have a name for you. Why did Bill
Oh man.
Jones? I mean, yeah, yeah, the Evening World, the Argus, the St. Louis,
Yes, yes.
all
St.
those
Louis
newspapers.
American.
I used to, and matter of fact, I just interviewed Mike Roberts, who's a good friend of mine. I know he just started a radio station there.
I know Mike. I know his daddy.
Yeah, his father recently passed, I think, last year.
Yes, yes, I
But
know. I
yeah,
know all these people. Mike is very successful, as well as his brothers. Real proud of them. Their daddy was a lawyer and a good lawyer. They used to live on Lawton Street, and although it was an older neighborhood, the homes were immaculate. I mean, they were something you marvel at from the outside, the construction of them, how they were built, and how they were erected, and the material that they used. A 2x4 in there
it
is
was a real 2x4.
real, not
Yeah,
this 3.5 stuff
yeah,
we got.
the real dimensions, 2 inches
Yeah.
by 4 inches. Yeah, yeah. I've done a lot of construction too. I've been a developer. I built a lot
Oh,
of houses. Done a lot of commercial development for a city the size of Springfield, Illinois, which is where I reside at. So, and everything we did in the black community to try to, enhance it to make it better.
yes.
It wasn't as profitable if I wanted to be, but
Oh,
whatever.
no.
You
Generally,
create.
on a house back in the day, you could make as high as 22%.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the white companies can make as high as 35%.
Mm-hmm.
In recent years, that's gone down. Some of the reason that it's gone down because they're using, I call it inferior product, grade 3 lumber, and they skirt the building codes, but they get away with it because their skin color and the money that and the political power that they have. When I built, I don't have that option. So I learned early not only to meet code, but to exceed code. That way I didn't have to share any of my revenue with the inspector.
You can keep it all.
Yeah, I keep it all.
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence, I know I've kept you on for such a long time, and I
Oh, it's
appreciate
been enjoyable.
you being gracious enough. And and I will send you the link to this because you can actually go back and watch this show later.
Whoa.
It's on YouTube. It's been on LinkedIn. It's on Facebook. So we're running it live right now. But I'll send you the link, and you'll be able to. If
I
you have
appreciate
anybody
that.
else you want to watch the show, they can go in and watch it. So,
Oh,
Mr.
that's a
Lawrence,
blessing.
thank you so much for coming on. And
Thank you for having me.
And I think
I
Paul,
want you to know, as the store progresses, anything that you need from me, any support that you need, I'm offering it to you up front.
well, I appreciate that.
And any insight that you need from me, you want the truth about what's going on, I'm willing to share that with you and your audience.
Yeah. Well, I think the city really needs to know what they got, because I know just from what I've been reading, they've talked bad about the grocery store and the people really don't know what's going on. So we're going to bring some breath of fresh air to that store. And again, like I say, I'm rooting for you. And the next time I'm down that way, I will look you up. I got a lot of running around to do the next time I come down there.
Please come. If you don't
people.
do no more than drop in and have a meal.
Okay, so
bring your mom. Bring your mom.
I will do that.
I promise to keep her entertained.
Okay. Well, Mr. Lawrence, thank you so much for coming on the show. And if you could just stay on for just a few seconds or whatever afterwards, and we'll go ahead and end this. Listeners out there, you're looking at an icon, you're looking at a legend, and you're looking at somebody that I believe is going to turn this thing around at this green market in St. Louis. So all you naysayers and doubters, watch out, because it's
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.